Hey guys, welcome back to my Awkward channel. I hope you've all been doing well. Today I'm going to share with you 6 main reasons why you aren't improving on your instrument. One of the most frustrating things that you could experience as a musician is when you're putting in all the hard work and all the hours doing all this practice, but you're not getting the results that you want, and it leaves you feeling really frustrated and really demotivated. I've definitely been through times like that. Sometimes it can get so bad that I don't even want to touch my instrument because I'm just so frustrated. These are 6 really valuable lessons that I learned throughout my years of learning flute, and honestly, I wish I had someone to tell me these tips at the time. It would have saved me so much frustration and energy. Not to mention, it would have accelerated my progress and helped me improve so much faster. So yeah, I hope these lessons will prove really helpful to you. Without further ado, let's get into it. So the first reason might be a really straightforward and obvious one, but it's definitely still very important, and that is not spending enough time practicing. So you might be asking, how much is enough practice? Honestly, there is no straightforward answer to that, because that question depends a lot on whether you're a beginner or a professional and a lot of other factors as well. Learning an instrument is actually really similar to lifting weights or stretching. You are never going to be flexible if you don't stretch for a certain amount of time every day. Or you can't lift 50 kilos if you don't slowly build up to it every day. And the moment that you stop, your progress will take a dive. The reason is because playing an instrument requires a lot of muscle memory. And with muscle memory, the only thing you can do is to repeat things over and over again to learn it. I can't really tell you exactly how much you should practice or how long you should practice, but I believe as a general rule of thumb, if you want to see progress in a short amount of time, then you need to do a minimum of 1 hour every single day. Oftentimes I'll see a lot of students having really staggered practice schedules. They'll practice for like 30 minutes for a day and then skip 2 days and then practice for an hour and then skip another day and then practice for 30 minutes. Sure, it might seem like you are practicing a lot, but actually that is really inefficient way of practicing and you're wasting a lot of your time. During those days that you skipped, your progress would have dived. It's definitely much better to do less practice but do it every day than do long hours but be inconsistent. So if you're someone that's really busy and you just can't make that time commitment, I would suggest you do less practice but be consistent, which means doing it every day. The easiest way to achieve this is just to set out a regular time, kind of like meal times, like you always eat at designated time during the day. So if you allocate and schedule time beforehand, like 30 minutes every day just to do practice, soon enough you'll get really used to it and it will just become part of your schedule and you won't even really need to think about it. So on to the next reason. Another reason why you might not be improving as much as you want is that you're not doing effective practice. So I did mention in point 1 that you need to allocate enough time to practice, but that also means that you are getting as much as you can out of those practice sessions. And effective practice is not easy. It's a lot more mentally tiring and it requires you to be really concentrated. I've definitely been guilty of just going into my practice room and being like, let's just get this hour over and done with, I want to go do something else. Whenever I go in with that kind of mindset, that practice session is guaranteed to be less than half effective. And that is because when you're not really focusing and doing effective practice, most of the time you'll just kind of be on an autopilot and then just be playing things over and over again and not really working on things that you need to be working on. Sometimes it could even be harmful because say if you have a bad habit that you're trying to get rid of, if you're just practicing without thinking about it, you're actually reinforcing bad habits that you have. This is why effective practice is really, really, really important. And my tip to help you achieve this is have a clear goal in mind before you go into any practice session. So maybe for today's practice session, you're just going to be working on a particular section of that piece that you've been having trouble on for weeks. Or you might go into a practice and say, today I'm just going to focus on creating a clear tone. So basically, you need to have a plan on what you want to achieve or work on before you even go into your practice. This brings me over to the third point, which is doing targeted practice. This kind of goes hand in hand with point point 2, doing effective practice. Doing targeted practice involves zooming in and really looking at the things that you need to work on. Instead of just going through the motions and playing your pieces from top to bottom over and over again without really giving it much thought. How do you do targeted practice? Being able to do targeted practice really comes down to two things. The first thing is to identify the cause of your problem, and then the second thing is to find a solution for that. So what do I mean by that? Let me give you an example using Carvine Sonata third movement. So this is something I've played recently in my video 10 levels of flute playing. If you haven't watched it, go watch it after this video right here. So if I were to identify the cause of the problem, there would be three things. The first one is double tonguing, second one would be fingering, and the third one will be the combination of both. So instead of playing this passage over and over again and wearing myself out and not achieving anything, I could break it down into these three components. To work on double tonguing, I would just do a simple double tonguing exercise and practice it to a metronome and increase the speed. For the fingering skill, there are lots of fingering exercises that I could go for. For example, any of Trevor Wire's ones would be really good. And I would just do the ones that target high register fingerings. After I've worked on those two separately, then I put it together and come back and look at this passage. And even with this short section, you could break it down into even smaller bite-sized pieces. And this is what I always do with anything that I find challenging or difficult. The first step is to break it down into smaller parts. So in these particular few bars, you can see that there is a pattern going on here. They're kind of grouped in threes, even though they are in groups of 4 semiquavers rhythmically. Melodically, you can see that they're kind of grouped in threes. So I'll practice these individual pieces separately until I'm really confident, and then I would start putting the puzzle pieces together. So then I would put the first and the second piece together as one, and then once I can play that confidently, then I add the third piece on, and so on. This is how I always practice difficult passages, and I urge you to do the same, because playing something over and over again is just not going to do it. Unless you're trying to memorize something or you're still in the stage of learning the notes, then that's a different story. So the next reason that I want to bring up is not working on your fundamental skills. I know, of course, yes, learning repertoire is really important. I can't stress this enough. Like, fundamentals will take you farther than anything else, because at the end of the day, each piece you play will be composed of fundamental skills and a combination of them. And what I mean by that is the biggest elements that you'll see in any piece or repertoire that you play will be tone, finger technique, articulation, intonation, and rhythm. So really, if you focus your time and energy and work on these few things, you can basically play any repertoire that you want. Or at least you'll definitely be much better equipped to learn difficult repertoire and learn it faster. My suggestion is to spend at least 1/4 to 1/3 of your practice time on fundamental skills. That means doing tone exercises and scales and finger exercises and whatnot. And that's how I would plan out my practice schedule. If I did 1 hour practice, the first 20 minutes would just be working on those things. Fundamentals will get you farther than anything else. Say it with me. Okay, so on to the next reason, performance practice. This might sound really easy, but a lot of people actually don't really do it, because naturally you don't really get many opportunities or chances to do performance practice. At the end of the day, all of your work, it comes down to how well you do in your performance, and you've only got one chance. So it's really important to practice getting your mindset into performance mode, which means you can't stop if you make a mistake. That could be something really challenging, because that's not something that you would focus on usually when you're practicing. So my tip for you is to try and play for as many people as possible and pretend that it's a performance. Usually this would be done in the last stages of learning a piece, but it's equally important and it will definitely help you improve. It makes a difference. The last reason I want to talk about today is listening to recordings. So one of the biggest reasons that might be preventing you from improving or getting to that next level is that you're not training your ears. As a musician, it's really important to train your ears. For example, if you don't know you're out of tune, you're not going to be able to fix it and play in tune. So listening to professional recordings is really important. A lot of artists, whether they be musicians or painters or dancers, they always start off finding inspiration and copying someone. I would suggest you to find your favorite flautists that you really admire and just copy what they do. And listen to as many of the recordings as you can, because the more recordings you listen to of great players, the more you'll train your ears to have that higher standard, and the more you push yourself to match that standard. And that will contribute a huge factor into how fast you progress, because you'll be pushing yourself a lot more and practicing with a completely different mindset if you've trained your ears and you're aiming for a higher place. I definitely did that a lot when I was studying. I always listened to a recording of my favorite flautist of the piece that I was going to work on before I actually started working on it. And over time, I started to adopt similar elements to his playing or similar tone qualities. It really helped me to improve and take my playing to the next level. Alright, so those are the 6 reasons that I came up with why you might not be improving on your instrument. Let me know if you found it helpful or insightful. Remember to subscribe to my channel and turn on the notifications. I usually do post twice a week. Sorry, I've been a little bit MIA in the past week or so. Comment below if you have any other tips that you want to share, and I shall see you next time. Bye!